Okay. Well, thanks everyone for taking time to connect. I know Doug sent a message and he's not going to be able to join us today. He's got a call. Yeah, so we'll see if anyone else drops in.
Okay.
But we can start it off. Who would like to go first? Crickets.
I can start off. Yeah, nothing too much new. I've actually been doing a lot of work on our, I guess, the app for the back end, so that we can use SimPEG like interactively, kind of thing, with a GUI. Yeah, almost there. I've got 4 nodes connected to a main resource manager and an interface that talks to it from any computer. Just to start it up in Python and can run SimPEG inversions, and then it like feeds back information. I've modified, or I have a script for the inversion that writes outputs so that it comes back to the app interface and pretty much types what's on the screen, kind of thing.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see what you output for that and what folks want to, like, what that actually log looks like.
It's kind of a work in progress. I don't know what everybody wants. Like, now that I've got users starting, now I'm going to get the request like, oh, can I see this and see that? So it's not quite finalized, but I'm just putting out what's in the text file as is.
Okay.
Just the FIM, FIM, FID, the smooth alphas and all that kind of stuff. Just that for right now. And then whatever requests I'll just add in later.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting and just useful insight as to what users want to see. And yeah, because when sort of thinking about like that next level of wrappers and things like that, being able to have basically like a set of defaults that has been reasonably tested by others would be great.
Yeah, I'll have all the information, whatever you guys want.
Excellent.
And I tried out Joe's sensitivity calc for the MT, and right on. It seems to be working pretty good. Yeah, I'm just trying to run a few simulations using it as the weights. But I keep getting a line search break. So I'm also using the new JTVec and JVEX that I'm using. So maybe they're causing the problem. I'm just going to have to check into that. And yeah, I just want to dig into the fields object a bit too, because I'd really like to make that an X-array. Or can you make like 2 presets for 2 different, like, I know you have it set that it looks that it should be a dictionary, but can you have it as a dictionary and say an X-array? Can you have 2 different properties? Because if that's the case, I won't need to change much in the back end. We can just in the fields object identify what it is, and then it can do all what it needs to be done.
Yeah, I imagine that should be reasonably straightforward. Joe, you were.
I was going to say, like, it's like if they just have an overarching class wrapper that decides, like, okay, well, this is a we'd have a fields class, and then I would say that we would have like a, like the regular style field and then a X-array field or something. They both access the same way, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's the thing. We can access it from the code where it all is already. It's just when it accesses it, fields object knows what to do with it in the back end, so you don't have to change anything else later on. Yeah, if we can do that, yeah, I'd be or I could take that and add that in. I just wasn't sure. I'm not familiar with the properties module like that, so I wasn't sure if you could set 2 or not. I didn't try yet either. So,
like I said, I would approach it as an object-oriented side of it, and then we would have like a fields class, and then the old style field would be implemented below that, and then at least that's how I would imagine it would probably be the easiest way to go about.
Okay, yeah, I'll check that out, Joe. Thanks. I'll look at that way. Other than that, that's all I've been up to.
Thanks, John. Perfect. Joe, would you like to go?
Yeah, sure. I've been going through the Dask stuff again and trying to separate it out. It's working nicely, but I just have. I mean, I think looking at it closely, I still have more questions. Like, so if you'd like to, I don't know, John, if you can stay on afterwards a little bit, I can chat about a few things just to make sure I understand that it was doing what I think it was doing.
Yeah, I looked at it here not too long ago, so it's a bit fresh in my mind. I'm pretty sure I remember what everything's doing now.
Okay. Sounds good. Other than that, I've been working on, so hopefully I should be able to do a publication on it sooner than later, but I've been working on this whole other project with BHP, which has been applying a we've been, they developed a nice model to test a bunch of things on in a mining application. And we have like densities, susceptibilities, resistivities, chargeabilities, velocities, essentially everything for this nice mining example target. But hopefully I can push them to make the model open. But I've been using that to test a bunch of some MT stuff on as well, because we're using MT modeling on it. So I was using the SimPEG on that to hopefully give us an idea, or at least give me some sort of sense of where where things are going. So it's like I'm pretty sure I'll still be able to play around with the model, but I won't be able to distribute it at least. But we should be able. Hopefully should be able to apply it to something. But that project is basically wrapping up now, so that's nice.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, Joe and I think, talked about this on Slack maybe. We do have a GitHub repo that like has the intention of being a space where we can store models and things like that. And it would be fun to start to try and think through that. Like I think TKC could be a good example. The synthetic, at least, I don't think we have the rights to distribute the data yet. But we might be able to at some point down the line. The L block, and basically like what I would think would be kind of cool to have is basically just like a model class, and then you can give it a mesh, and it just like sticks the model on the mesh. And so something that basically has like effectively a parametric representation, however you define that, of what that model is. And then it could take any sort of discretized mesh and pop the model on there. And then you could run whatever simulations you want.
Yeah.
So something to like think about. And if we have excuses or reasons to do that, it might be nice to try and get a few examples that could sort of be benchmarks. Dieter, we could even think about this for the CSEM paper, if that makes sense. Or if you have something else in mind for that.
Yeah, I know the model that I was working with started life as a leapfrog model, so I'm sure there's some sort of geobody type information somewhere. I guess other than that, I've been working on some reviews of papers and things. I'm not sure if anyone else is reviewing abstracts for SEG or anything. Those are coming in. So.
I got an easy one, so that's okay.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. That's about it.
Thanks, Joe. Dieter, would you like to go next?
Yes, I had more looks at your GeoSci.xyz and my gradient and that Eldad Haber's book. I got more confused about differences, how things are about notations, but I finally managed it somehow. I think your GeoSci.xyz, even though it uses the adjoint, it's not the adjoint state method, right? You still have an A-inv, so you have somehow still an implicit Jacobian. Is that correct?
So there's
so
still
the A inverse is the solution to the forward problem.
A-inv.
Yeah. That's the factorized matrix from the forward problem, which is one of the things that's required of doing that J transpose operation.
Yeah.
If you look at the math, you still need to do like whatever the solution phase is on it to get the. It's in. Were you reading about that? It's a PDE constrained optimization book.
Sorry?
So at one point, I remember finding a book from Eldad on PDE constrained optimization.
No, I was just looking at his EM book to see with the notation you're using SimPEG.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not sure if it's up anywhere anymore, but I know he had a PDE constrained optimization thing. Yep. And that really helped me understand what was going on, just generally.
Do you still have a copy of that somewhere, Joe?
I would only ever find it online. I've never been able to find it again. It was at some like a conference proceedings or something somewhere. And it was like this long list of PDE constraint optimization stuff, and I have a feeling if you start Googling like PDE constrained optimization, you might find something similar, or you might be able to find something more along the path, because that's essentially what SimPEG is doing, or like for most of the problem, it's a PDE constrained optimization.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it works. I think the outcome is the same, so I'm happy with it. But it did got me thinking about looking a bit more about SimPEG, because one of my hopes was to kind of make a wrapper for my code to use it as a solver for SimPEG at some point. Once the simulation branch is in, then we could have maybe once a call about that, what would have to be done. So we could try it. Obviously, it would just be for a very specific task of, say, frequency domain EM problems that it would work. And if it's possible, one thing would be that the solver needs much more information than just a direct solver. It doesn't just need the A matrix and the right-hand side, but it needs the whole model and the discretized mesh. So but I guess that's not a big blocker. That should work somehow. We could manage that. But then I was wondering so the forward modeling, I think, could be done without too many issues, but then I started to wonder if it would work for inversions, or if there are some assumptions in the way SimPEG does inversion that are tailored towards direct solvers that might be a bit trickier. For instance, the assumption that you have the A matrix, do you ever need that?
No, so that should be pretty self-contained to the simulation. Like all that we really, I mean, and we'll see if we run into any issues, but with the data misfit, like all we need the simulation to be able to do is to provide us data, and then the sensitivity times a vector and the adjoint sensitivity times a vector. If you want to do second order methods, if you only want to do first order methods, we just need JT times a vector and dpred out of the simulation.
Okay. Yeah, then it should be possible.
You're referring to like the multi-grid approach that you've been using, right? I mean, there's not really anything that I can see or that I remember inside there that's inside SimPEG that is implicitly feeling a direct solver approach.
Right. I thought more maybe like with the direct solvers, additional sources would come at almost no cost. So whereas in an iterative solver, that's a very expensive thing. Well, just the same cost for each source. I thought maybe somewhere there, but I guess we can just try it and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it should work. It'll just be a matter of, okay, well, we spend less time factorizing the matrix and more time solving the right-hand sides.
Yeah, okay. Cool. So is it still online with May Day?
Getting there, hopefully. Yeah, just a few little things that I wanted to chat with John about, and then I think I'm okay to pull some of this Dask stuff in that I wanted to get in ahead of time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Then one more question I stumbled upon, because I'm thinking now at the whole thing of data management. I think I remember you talked about that you might change to or go to X-array, or how do you handle data internally? Is it a data class or is it the survey class, or is that something that changes in the simulation branch?
Yeah, so now it's the data class. So previously it would have been previously it would have been the survey class that held on to that, but now it will be the data class. And right now it's just a NumPy array. But that's something that like we can look into and see if X-array makes sense for that. But yeah, for now it's just simply a NumPy array.
And each source can have different receivers.
Yeah.
Or how's it? Yeah. Okay. Then I have to look better at this data class. Yeah, that's something I'm interested at the moment, but that's all.
Yeah, and that's a space too where I think there's probably going to be wrappers and things like that get built out to basically ingest data into the SimPEG data class. Because it's not necessarily like it's not necessarily obvious, you know, the sort of the source list and then the receiver list for each source. It's a bit of a concept to kind of wrap your head around. So yeah, I could see us.
And is there any documentation or not really? Is it the code, looking at the code?
I don't know what the state of our documentation is on that.
Because, well, I was on the old branch, so I looked at survey, and that was not really a lot in the docs.
Yeah, I think hopefully
it said it's survey, but yeah.
Hopefully we've improved a few things, but we'll try it out and hopefully improve some stuff along the way.
Oh, that's fine. Just in case that I would have missed it, but it exists or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And as I said, Thibaut, I will try to get more publications from the consortium. They just got me this one I shared, which is not really a lot. It's more a conceptual thing. Yeah, they also haven't really published a lot, being in the industry, I guess. It's on their wish list, I think, since years, but they just didn't get around. But I will definitely try to get some more publications and share them with you guys. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
So, sorry, so what was your PhD, or is your PhD in? Because you said it's in a similar field, right? With hydrates, or what did you mean it's similar field? Joint?
Yeah, joint inversion, like kind of like also like Joe did something similar for his PhD of like including petrophysical information and geology information in your inversion, and that trying to reproduce that petrophysical and geological information at the same time as your geophysical data.
Yeah. So,
and you can use that those prior information as your coupling term too for multiphysics.
Yeah, yeah. So the few bits I know about is that it's a very, I think they call it structural inversion. So they just have a very few layers or blocks or bodies that they adjust the properties. So they don't do it voxel based, but for a few bodies or layers. And then,
or like with surfaces, like a VPMG style inversion. Or
I don't know, what is that?
Oh, VPMG is like a software for inversion,
okay.
but it works by moving nodes on surfaces to define bodies.
Yes, exactly. So it can expand bodies, shrink bodies, move layers, and the properties of those bodies and layers. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, Thibaut.
I'm just like the boring person spending his day on writing a thesis or making revision on paper.
Yeah.
There is not much code involved at the moment.
Other than
I kind of miss it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, I look forward to reading it whenever you need feedback. Be happy to be on the hook for taking a read.
Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, like I'm just trying to have something that's coherent right now. Just like, so thankfully I have like a bunch of like draft of papers so that I can use, but then it's just a matter of like, oh, I need to move the introduction there, and like, oh, okay, and this part is repeated, or like, oh, now it's a thesis, so I need to give more detail about that in the paper. In the paper that was just like pushing on the side and stuff like that. So it's like, it's a lot of like just filling gaps.
Well, good luck.
So maybe next week I will get like a first reasonable coherent draft. We'll see. That's the goal.
Excellent. Well, I just had a couple updates. I dropped some links in the Google Doc. The first one, there's the Software Underground Transform virtual conference happening in June. It looks like there's still potentially space on the schedule. So I was wondering if folks would be interested in like helping run a session on sort of inversion with SimPEG. There's other similar sessions being run. I don't feel like I'm sort of in a place where I could take charge of this, but I would be very happy to support if someone wants to lead this. Or if we have sort of a team who's game, then I'm happy to sort of be somewhat on the hook, but wouldn't want to volunteer just on my own. So I don't know if folks have had a chance to look at that, or we can think on it. But I would reach out to Matt Hall if this is of interest, and just ask if there's a slot that we could do a quick overview of SimPEG.
Yeah. When did you say it was?
I think it's June 6th to the 14th.
I mean, hopefully that's about the time that I'm able to come back up. So I might be a little busy at that time. I can support people, but I'm not sure if I'd be able to lead anything as well.
There are also, if you would like to consider that, Lindsay, there Matt just posted there would be lightning talks, just 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
If it's not enough for a whole session, or if nobody is having the time for a whole session, so there might be short sessions to talk about a thing.
Yeah. That's good to know. We could also chat. So I know Dom was leading the charge for having a tutorial at SEG.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this could be basically a preliminary run of that. So we can ping him and see. Because I think like if we get like 3 of us and 1 person who we know will be able to present, like I would be able to present that week. But if there's 3 of us who are helping generate content, 3 or 4, then I'd be totally comfortable, saying that we can give a 1-hour overview. I think we've generated enough content in the past for courses that it shouldn't be a huge lift. So yeah, so maybe we can think on it and make a decision next week as to like, do we want to sort of go full on tutorial, or just kind of lightning talks, and maybe try and get a few of us talking about different scientific problems. What else?
There is also...
Yes, same. I have a bunch of deadlines that are like in June, so I'm not sure I can take a charge like that for me.
Miguel will also give a tutorial with GeoSci for the ones who are interested in GeoSci in this week.
Yeah, I'd be excited to see that.
Although I think it's a very bad time for you guys. I think it's 10 o'clock over here in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
They're all going to be Zoom, so I haven't asked yet, but I hope they're going to be recorded.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh,
go ahead, Thibaut.
I was going to say, if you have a link, post it on Slack, please.
Yeah, if I ever going to find that. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last thing that I want to just put out, because I think one of the things, if we want to get the release done on Friday, it would be nice if we have a blog post to accompany that. And actually, I think one of the most important pieces of that blog post is an updated sketch of the framework. Mm-hmm. So I just took a crack at this, and so totally open to comments and ideas. So I think an important thing to realize here is that this is not meant to be like fully comprehensive. Even the previous one, like if you actually sort of really drill into it, there's things that are missing, and like it's not a full complete picture, but at the same time, it's still like a useful conceptual model. So I'll maybe just share my screen, and I can show you what that looks like. So, can you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me just pull them up side by side. There's this one, and then this is the previous one. So the things that have changed here, and we can play around with the visual. I'm not entirely sure if this is the best layout, but so we can see now that we no longer have the pair. But I still kept the survey as a distinct class, because it is a distinct class that goes 2 places. It goes to the data and it goes to the simulation. So the data class has been added. That's new and did not exist here. Even though we had a data class, we didn't actually explicitly like require the use of it. And so now in this case, rather than the survey going to the data misfit, the data class goes to the data misfit, as well as the simulation. Yeah, and that's basically the only thing that I changed. I mean, we're still like missing, we don't have directives in here, that sort of thing, but we didn't before, so I sort of feel like that's fine. Maybe we just leave it out. Yeah, so I don't know what your initial reactions are kind of to that.
I mean, it seems logical. Seems like the logical difference between them, essentially. Yes, simulation is doing the work now, not the survey.
Yeah.
Is that also, it's sort of a chart of the workflow. Is that also how you would go about, let's say in a notebook? You will start with a survey and then, or is it more how it works as a framework?
It's a bit of both. I mean, I guess like the thing, there's a couple things that I think that are important that are missing, but would perhaps go into another iteration of this. For example, the model is missing, like the model and mappings. And that's actually a pretty critical piece to being able to use SimPEG. So I think like what I would envision us perhaps doing is maybe publishing sort of these frameworks side by side in the blog post, and then later down the road, creating a new one that's a bit more complete. I don't want to sort of do both of those steps with this, because I think that that's potentially confusing to explain sort of the difference and then like, oh yeah, we clarified some other stuff. But this is like somewhat how you would approach that. I mean, so each of these boxes are sort of things that you would set up in a cell. So I would be setting up, like you need to set up your mesh, sort of the survey and the data are the first like sort of building blocks. And then from there you build out the simulation and then work through the inversion components. So roughly, if you start sort of at the spots where, you know, the arrows are only going out, you're in reasonably good shape.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think what, like, I see you have like the green box there still, and you haven't labeled it yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I'm assuming there's a reason you haven't labeled it yet, because it's kind of like, I don't know if it still needs to be there or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it might not need to be there. Yeah, that I think is an interesting question. When I sketched this out, actually, I can show you. I made a sketch just like on my iPad as I was trying to think through this. And in that case, I didn't have any sort of particular boxes and maybe just color code stuff that is like, this is part of the forward, this is part of the inverse. We could think about that. Yeah.
Is simulation?
Yeah, go ahead, Dieter.
Is simulation just the synthetics as a partner to data, which is, let's say, the measured data, or is it more?
It's just the synthetics.
Okay, so that could be sort of side. One is the data observed, and the other one is the data modeled.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is, I guess, the, like what we could label this as is still sort of forward model or forward simulation or forward component.
The reason I'm asking, because simulation now is the only large box, so I wonder if it looks like it's much more than other boxes.
Essentially what happens is that the survey is defining like the acquisition geometry, essentially, whether that be like obviously the location of receivers, but also like their components, the types of receivers and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the geometry of the survey almost. And then simulation handles predicting it to that.
True, yeah. I just thought that then in this case, I would intuitively think survey would be the big one and half of it would be data and other half would be simulated, just from, yeah, probably doesn't make sense.
So I actually think that's a bit of an important distinction between these two is actually, let me just minimize that. The role of the survey class has actually gotten smaller in this refactor.
Okay.
That the survey class no longer, all it does is hold the geometry. And like if you ask for sources or receivers, it can do sort of the interpolation or evaluate itself. But it doesn't, it no longer holds the data. The data takes the survey. So we've reversed who's the container. So in this case, for an inversion where we're working with field data, the data object is the container for everything that you need to know about your field data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and the only reason I made it bigger, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, just for visuals, is I didn't know how to arrange it where it looked reasonable, where it was small. But the other, I think the role, like the simulation is actually a pretty big class. It has a lot more guts to it than some of the rest of the things. And so, but we could definitely play around with that and have things be the same size if that sort of prompts too many questions or is confusing. So, yeah.
Lindsay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like one comment I like that you just said is that you can start with a box that's have only like arrows that comes out of it, so mesh and survey, and I guess it depends of like who's the target and what you want to convey through that visual framework. But I was wondering if maybe it would be a good idea to highlight the initialization box so that somebody that comes to the framework and discover it to know where to start, basically having like some sort of like initialization.
Yeah, that's cool. Is maybe even something like instead of having the big green box here, do this, like that kind of thing. Is the green starting point? Yeah. Yeah, so something to mull on. I mean, what I'll do, because I do need to actually sit down and start writing some of the blogs so that folks can take a look and we can have that ready to go with the release. I'll start from this as just kind of a first pass. But even if you want to just sketch out on a napkin or a piece of paper and take a screenshot and throw it into Slack, I enjoy seeing what other conceptual models are. And we can iterate on this. Or if you want to take this one and just like create a copy of it, I think everyone here should have access to this Google Drive. Dieter, if you don't, just let me know which email I should use for Gmail, and I can make sure you've got access. So if you want to sort of make a copy and fool around with it and come up with your own sketch, then that would be great. Cool. Okay.
Or
Well,
just post a screenshot in Slack as well.
Yeah. And I'll drop these into Slack so that other people see it who aren't on the meeting and have time to just chime in and see what they think. Okay. Any other updates, questions?
I did get that data loader made for our QA&T system. So if what was it? Aurora is still looking at that stuff.
Yeah.
I do have an outline, so I don't know if I touch base with them or if that's even, or if they're still interested. I don't know. If
you'd be willing to just post on the discourse that they started, because I think, let me see.
I started talking with the one guy. Yeah, maybe I'll just try to revive that and see if he responds. I'll just tell him that I have something started. So.
Yeah, I mean, and if you capture it on the discourse or on an issue or just like somewhere public that they can jump in on. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
And either way, if you present something or not at the Transforms one, I would recommend you sign up and check what's there. There will be so many different things, even if it's just one talk or a session or a non-session or whatever. I think, yeah, the timing is a bit going to be interesting as it's all around the globe, but there will be sessions at your time.
Yes.
I think officially it runs from 8 o'clock here till midnight here. So midnight here is somewhere in the afternoon at yours, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, it looks like a solid lineup, and all very relevant projects. So it'll be fun.
I don't know if Devito is of interest to you. Have you ever looked into that?
A little bit, not much recently. I don't know if anyone else has.
They seem also to give a talk, a tutorial style. Gempi. Yeah, these are probably. And Leo with Verde gives a talk. So. So.
I've really liked Verde. I used it for the UXO abstract, and it's a really nice package.
I never did, but I bet it's nice.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Anything else? No. All right. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you on Slack. And yeah, we'll sort of post updates on hopefully get a blog draft out soonish. And if people want to jump in and contribute to that would be great. And if you want to scribble on napkins, I'd enjoy seeing what everyone's comes up with. Perfect. All right. Have a good afternoon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Joe, staying on, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll just stop the recording for you guys.